You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves, they run out of gas tonight in the fourth quarter. Final score versus the Cavs, 124-117. What's going on back in the lab? Back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me as always. He's live from the Target Center. Give him a follow on X at JaredBorman13. Jack, lots to get into tonight. Wolves just run out of steam at the end, plus more on Rob Dillingham's minutes, plus another low-key good Julius Randle game. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so Wolves coming off, a fantastic game. Just a fantastic night in New York last night. No rest for the wicked. We've talked about that with this gauntlet schedule. They got to turn around. They got to play one of the best teams in the league. Cleveland coming to town in your backyard at the Target Center. And I got to tell you, Jack, they showed a good fight tonight for the first, 3 quarters? This was neck and neck. Both teams going blow for blow, shot for shot. Like a one-possession game heading into the fourth, late third maybe. And then all of a sudden, Ty Jerome and Niang just go like Hall of Fame on the bit, shoot the lights out of the gym. If you walk to the bathroom or maybe you flipped over to the Lions game perhaps, like maybe I did myself, it was like a 15-point swing in the matter of just minutes. So at that point, Wolves just had no gas left in the tank. Credit them for maybe clawing back those last 4, 5, 6 minutes, but too little, too late. Final score again, 124-117. I'd like to start big picture. It's only one game, and considering coming off, again, the Knicks game the night prior, big picture stuff, what'd you like and what'd you dislike the most tonight?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, as far as scheduled losses go, this is probably number one on the Timberwolves schedule for scheduled losses. So I'm like coming into tonight, I was not going to be upset if they lost this game whatsoever. But then Evan Mobley and Isaac Okoro are both ruled out for Cleveland. They're arguably their two best defensive players. Okoro likely to be the Anthony Edwards matchup, and Evan Mobley has been fantastic for them, averaging nearly 20 points, 10 rebounds, shooting over 40% from three. Has been kind of their the Rudy Gobert of their defense, if you will, playing free safety back there. So not having either of those two guys, it's set up to be a really good matchup for Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle too, for that matter. And I think my expectations certainly shifted a little bit in terms of, I thought this is a very winnable game for the Timberwolves, maybe, independent of some of the travel circumstances. But I do want to start a little less than big picture, I guess.
Sure.
To dive right into it. Yeah. I just thought that one move from Chris Finch really was the difference between winning and losing this game. I hate to put it necessarily on one person or on one specific part of this game.
And I'll just preface this. You're the last guy to come on here and put the blame game on Finch. So I know it must be serious. I know he must be at fault here in a big way if you're going to come on here. Because, again, you kind of always have backed Finch up to this point. So continue. I just want to preface that because...
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I haven't put too many games at all, just like, this one decision from Finch really was the difference in the game. But I totally felt like that was the case tonight. When there was about 2 minutes left, maybe it was either 2 minutes or 3 minutes. I think it was about the 2-minute mark of the third quarter. Jaden McDaniels goes on a personal 5-0 run, to bring the Wolves back to within 2, 81-79. And then he went to a really, really bad lineup for my money. He went with Rob Dillingham, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Joe Ingles, who was the 9th man tonight, in for Josh Minott. We'll get into why he was in there in segment 2, but and then Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert, and the Cavs were playing a 2-3 zone at this point, and they weren't really deviating from that 2-3 zone very much. And so Chris Finch kind of knew that this was going to be the defensive scheme of the Cavaliers, and still decided to go to this lineup when he took Anthony Edwards out of the game. And Cleveland, Anthony Edwards came in a minute and a half later for the final 33 seconds of the quarter, but that was just really for one offensive possession. But Cleveland won on an 8-0 run to close the third quarter there, and just took all the momentum, sucked all the life out of the building. The offense had no rhythm or no flow going into the fourth quarter. Cleveland has all the momentum, and then what happens to start the fourth quarter? Cleveland goes on an 8-0 run. There was a different lineup out there for the Timberwolves. to start the fourth quarter. The Wolves started the fourth quarter out there with Conley, Edwards, Ingles, Randle, and Reed. So Conley in for Dillingham, and Reed in for or Randle in for Gobert, excuse me. And so for the Timberwolves to, just kind of roll over at the start of the fourth quarter, give up a really quick 8-0 run.
Followed by the other 8-0 run. So 16-0
totally.
run there. Yeah.
8-0 run on either side of the fourth quarter starting. The Wolves in that time frame missed 6 shots and turned it over twice, while Cleveland scored on 6 of 7 possessions and had 2 huge threes that came off of offensive rebounds. So
why would he go to that lineup, if I just may just cut in here real quick? Why do you – I haven't seen Joe Ingles on the court once all season. So why all of a sudden, because of the 2-3 zone specifically? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so Joe Ingles went in the first half towards the end of the first quarter. He went in to be a playmaker in the middle of that 2-3 zone, just because I think, when you have a lineup out there that could have Josh Minott and Julius Randle and Nickeil Alexander-Walker all in there at the same time, that's just, which is what the Timberwolves would have done not having Dante DiVincenzo. It's just a tough lineup to try to go in there and operate against the zone. So Ingles is a 40+% catch and shoot guy. I mean, that's pretty much all he did last year for the Orlando Magic, and had a very, very strong season. And yeah, he's not giving you a ton on the defensive end of the floor, but like Joe Ingles is still a perfectly capable offensive player. As a secondary playmaker and a guy that can stand in the corner and catch and shoot from 3, and obviously has good chemistry with Gobert from all their time together in Utah. So that's why he did that. I mean, normally we've seen when Ant checks out, 2-3 minutes to go in either the first quarter or the third quarter, that's normally to get Josh Minott in the game, and then you get to that Minott, Randle, Reed front court with whichever guards are going to be out there.
Yeah.
And Nickeil Alexander-Walker was having a really tough shooting game to that point, and Gobert wasn't giving you a whole lot offensively outside of offensive rebounds when Conley wasn't in the game and they weren't able to get to that pick and roll. And yeah, I just didn't necessarily understand why he took Ant out of the game. If you were just going to try to maybe steal a possession later. So I just don't love I don't love having a Rob Dillingham, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Joe Ingles perimeter group, especially considering that there's just no one in that really group of 4 between those 3 plus Naz Reid that are just going to kind of take control of the wheel and be a scorer. I think, for Finch, you probably would have had to tell Rob Dillingham, like, hey, we need you to be really aggressive and go downhill and play. And maybe that was something that was said. But again, I mean, you just look at the offensive possessions that group had. It was, it was just not pretty. It was a Nickeil Alexander-Walker missed, a little jumper in the lane, and Naz Reid missed layup, and offensive foul on and then a Nickeil Alexander-Walker missed layup again. So
it was ugly, man.
They weren't able to create open shots, and it was just a lot of tough contested shots that took the majority of the shot clock, and then Cleveland was able to get out and run the other way.
You may have mentioned this quickly. I may have missed it, but this is a game then when they're running that zone specifically that you miss DDV, correct? I mean, that's the guy that
it totally is
in that specific game plan to, counteract that 2-3 zone. DDV's the kind of guy that can just slice and dice that up.
Yeah, totally. No question about it. And I think we've seen teams try to go to a 2-3 zone sparingly, especially against Ant and Conley there. But when Conley was shooting the 3 ball really well, they went away from it last season, but he hasn't done it super well this year. And DiVincenzo is obviously a guy that's very comfortable shooting over the top of zones and slithering his way into the paint and then making kick out passes. And I thought Ant, for the most part, did a really good job of, faking passes to shift the top of the 2-3 zone and then attacking driving lanes and being able to kick the ball out. I thought the ball movement for the most part against the zone was pretty good. I just thought that the Wolves didn't make enough 3-point shots to really take them out of the zone. And because the Wolves were really sitting at 33%, in that low 30s for most of the game, really before towards the end of the fourth quarter when they kind of made it a little closer than the game actually was. But and then they really struggled in the mid-range. They got a decent number of short little mid-range looks against this 2-3 zone. just with having three big guys down low in the three part of the 2-3 zone, and the Wolves are 8 of 22, 36% in the mid range, and so that's obviously not what you want to have as you're trying to manufacture other ways of scoring without being able to get all the way to the rim. So again, I thought the ball movement was good. It was just a lack of shot making that really hurt him, and certainly a game where he missed Dante DiVincenzo. Yeah,
well said. Good breakdown there. Plenty more deep dive from this one. Let's talk about just some games within the games, right? Team stats, points off turnovers, fast break points, all that stuff. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel's giving you a chance at a huge return, $300 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose on your first $5 bet when you get the hunch in the middle of the game. You can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you're placing your bets. Again, $300 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose on your first $5 bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get on some NBA future action while you're there. Naz Reid, 6 Man of the Year odds, sitting at 6-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $300 in bonus bets guaranteed with your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Jack, before we hit some of these team stats, I know you got in your notes, Julius Randle, maybe his best game of the year. Why did you think that? 20 points, 14 boards, 9 assists, only 3 turnovers, but specifically outside of the numbers, which certainly touched on the numbers themselves, but what did he, really emphasize or maximize in his skill set tonight that really helped him shine, I guess?
Yes, a second straight game for Randle where in the early part of this game, he really did not take many shots at all. I don't think he took a shot in the first 4 or 5 minutes of this game. Had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, was super active on the offensive and defensive backboards, and then was doing a great job, of just driving into the middle of the floor if he didn't have an open catch and shoot shot, and then drawing the defense in and kicking it out to the opposite end of the floor for open shots. And had 3 assists pretty quickly. 2 of them were for corner threes. Another one was for a Jaden McDaniels ginormous dunk that helped get the crowd into the game. And he just kind of kept doing that for really the whole entire game. I thought, Julius in the first half of this game alone, he was absolutely tremendous. He had 9 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 turnover in that half, and was just giving the team all sorts of kind of ancillary spark that they really needed beyond, besides Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley and Naz Reid kind of being the primary scorers in that first half. And so for Randle to just kind of do all the little dirty work offensively and on the glass was really important. And I thought it was a good matchup for Julius to be able to play defensively, being able to guard guys like Dean Wade and George Niang, who are bigger stretch fours, who aren't really running around a ton off screens. They're not guys that are really trying to bang with you down low, that they're just more kind of catch and shoot guys, and allowed him to play in the gaps and be ready to, attack the glass as a defensive player. So he was really good in that department. And then, would have liked to see him kind of grab it and go and fly up the floor a little bit more and, be able to be more of a playmaker in the open floor, just considering that, coming into this game, the Cavaliers really struggled on the fast break. Entering tonight, Cleveland was 29th in the league in points off turnover differential over their last 5 games. Minus 7.2 was a differential, and Minnesota was minus 6.2. So they were 26th, and Cleveland really destroyed them on the fast break. 17-6 is what it started. It ended at 19-15 because Cleveland kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit once they got up huge, and the Wolves had to start playing at a much faster pace. So that was something that I would have liked to see the Timberwolves and Randle specifically be able to impact a little bit better. But I thought the way that he spaced around Rudy Gobert was awesome. He played a lot out of the corners and had some good post-ups against the bottom part of the zone there too. When Darius Garland got shifted down there, had some good reps attacking him from kind of that elbow extended and short corner area, and got to the free throw line 7 times. That's certainly what you want from him against a team that isn't quite as physical and is probably not going to respond as well to some of that physicality from him. So I just thought that he picked his spots really well. Again, spaced around Rudy Gobert really well, didn't cut into Gobert, did a good job of driving to certain parts on the floor that would draw Gobert's defender in, and opened up some lobs and dump off opportunities for Gobert, which was really important. And so, yeah, I think those two guys are really learning how to play together a lot better. And for the Timberwolves in this game, I mean, they scored 117 points. I think it's only like the second time they've lost when they've scored over 115 points. I've not, that's one that I have not fact checked. But the last time I checked, I feel like that's what it was at. And I mean, coming into this game, the Timberwolves over the last 5 games had an offensive rating of 121.6, which is fourth in the NBA. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Randle has done an excellent job for the most part of finding his role on the offensive end of the floor and really buying into it while also being competitive on both backboards. He's been a factor on the offensive glass as well too. And then tonight, for the Wolves, single game offensive rating was right there. It was 121.8. So it wasn't the offense that was a problem, and it certainly wasn't Julius Randle that was the problem too on the defensive end either, because he 14 rebounds leading the game tonight was awesome from Julius. So I'm really glad that we're seeing that this team can work together and can play together at a high level, and a lot of it hinges on Julius Randle. And so I hope that Julius Randle is realizing exactly what this team needs from him, and that if he can kind of get other guys going first, and then once other guys are going, and you kind of forget that Julius Randle can be a guy that can score really efficiently, 20 points on 12 shots when he's taking good shots and attacking the right matchups. And
it's just nice to see that it's possible. I mean, the first two and a half months, we just couldn't figure it out, and it just seemed like a foregone conclusion. The guy was just not long for this team, whether that was more big picture, long term, or even just at the trade deadline. So, yeah, even though maybe not necessarily the wins are stacking up, it's just nice to see that this guy, it is possible, can play with this team and put up some really good nights, not just in the box score, but help other players win as well. I just want to move on real quick, because I know coming into tonight, one of the very few weaknesses for this Cleveland team was points off turnovers, bottom 3 in the league in their last 5 games. T-Wolves, though, hardly any better themselves. How did the turnovers and maybe more importantly, the fast break points kind of dictate or swing this game, do you think?
Yeah, I think, Cleveland just did a good job of running off of stops early in the game, which was really important for them. I thought that, their half-court offense wasn't quite as efficient. They weren't knocking down open 3-point shots earlier on in this game, and Donovan Mitchell was really the only guy that got into the game, which was a tough sign for their offense, especially considering you don't have kind of his partner in crime in the front court there and Evan Mobley. And so for them to be able to just try to manufacture some easier offense, get other guys in the game, I thought that was really important for them. That was kind of how Karis LeVert, kind of got into the game, both as a scorer and as a facilitator. He did a good job of running the floor. Max Strus and Ty Jerome too were all really important guys on the fast break and got out and played well. And then the other part of it too is, though, even though you're not necessarily scoring off of the fast break, if you can, create cross match situations where you can then, attack mismatches and you find Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland on bigger guys or smaller guys that aren't good enough defenders, they're just going to make you pay almost all the time. And those two guys are so good, both as scorers and as playmakers, at making the right reads, kind of finding the weakness of your defense and really, really putting pressure on it and forcing you to kind of overcome some of those weaknesses. And so for those two guys to do well and play off of cross matches like they did tonight, I thought that, Cleveland, again, it was a problem for the Wolves too, right? Both on fast break defense and points off turnover defense. And I thought Cleveland did a good job of really more so on the fast break, trying to attack that. But for the Wolves, as a most part tonight, 8 turnovers is a great number for this Wolves team.
Take
and again,
that all day.
A bummer that, 13 points off of those 8 turnovers. And, they really did a poor job defending off of live ball turnovers, especially. But again, 8 turnovers is a great mark. And I think, the fast break point certainly isn't the reason why they lost. It was just really, the only other area that they really struggled, besides obviously offensive rebounds. I mean, that was the last one that I had here, is just Cleveland had 4 offensive rebounds and 4 second chance points at halftime. Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle each had 10 rebounds in the first half, which was awesome.
Wow.
Both had 8 defensive rebounds, 2 offensive rebounds. Wow. And then Cleveland, third quarter, they had 6 offensive rebounds for 7 second chance points. I believe 5 of those 7 second chance points came on that 8-0 run. And then in the fourth quarter, they had 3 more offensive rebounds for 3 more second chance points. One of those was a 3 that came very early in the fourth quarter as part of that second 8-0 run. And I just thought Nas and the guards didn't do a good enough job rebounding. I mean, if you look at the Wolves starting front court between Randle, Gobert, and McDaniels, they had 31 rebounds, and the 6 other guys in the rotation. So Nas, Reed, and then the collection of guards for the Wolves, Anthony Edwards included, only had 11 rebounds. What did Ant have? 14 rebounds last night, 13 rebounds by himself. Yeah. Last night in New York, he only had 3 tonight. Yeah. And that's pretty inexcusable for him, especially with the way that there wasn't a whole lot different about Cleveland's shot chart tonight. There were a lot of missed opportunities where there were long rebounds off of missed threes for Cleveland, and the Wolves guards have to really do a much better job of getting in and and trying to crash the glass on those, because it's just allowing a 32.3% offensive rebound rate off of 31 missed threes. 10 offensive rebounds off of missed threes for Cleveland tonight. The guards have to do a better job of getting in there and rebounding.
Great stuff. Couple minutes left. I want to talk about this Memphis game coming up Monday afternoon, plus Rob Dillingham's minutes. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule gets packed with work projects and more, it's easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy, they're more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, time to give BetterHelp a try, entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. So simple. All you got to do, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, I know you already touched on him, but just real quick, Rob Dillingham, Dilly, keeps chewing up some more minutes. 13 minutes last night, 4 for 6, 9 points, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. Follows that up tonight, 18 minutes, 12 points, 1 assist, 1 turnover. Pros and cons, good and bad. What'd you see tonight now that we're getting a little bit bigger sample size night to night?
Yeah, I didn't think that Rob was aggressive enough tonight. I think, again, a little bit of a different look for him going against his zone defense than what maybe he's accustomed to. And so maybe what the coaching staff is asking him to do becomes a little bit tougher just because it's a different look from a defense. And you really don't see much zone defense at all in the NBA. I think less than 5% of defensive possessions in today's NBA are zone defense. So, you got to credit Kenny Atkinson and Cleveland's coaching staff for making that move and it paying off pretty nicely for them. But it was nice to see Rob, be more aggressive in that fourth quarter. Had 12 points in that fourth quarter, and the Wolves as a whole shot 13 of 17 and from the floor and 4 or 5 from 3 in that fourth quarter. So it was great to see Rob be a factor. But again, had 5 fouls in that fourth quarter. Fouled out. I think I don't know how many of them were him just take fouling versus versus actually fouling. I want to say that, maybe there may be 2 take fouls, but even then, like having three normal fouls in a quarter is not great. So again, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell is surely pretty tough matchups for anybody in the league. So it's a little bit of trial by fire there. But again, would have liked to see him be a little bit more aggressive offensively next to Anthony Edwards, because we've seen Dante DiVincenzo have a lot of success being aggressive next to Ant in recent games, and Mike Conley at the start of last night's game, at the start of tonight's game, was successful being aggressive, and Rob was successful last night being aggressive next to Anthony Edwards. Late in that first quarter, early in that second quarter. So would have liked to see him get a little bit more active earlier on, but again, it's a rookie guard. There's going to be peaks and valleys for sure. And I think tonight was a good learning opportunity to say, hey, I'm sure that other teams are going to look at the film from tonight, as the Wolves are probably going to be without Dante DiVincenzo for a while, as we talked about last night. So, this might be a look that they see in future games. So
this reminds me of the Vikings getting 0 blitzed versus Detroit. They come out, you're assuming all week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all they did was just work on that protection and getting the ball out quick, and then they come out versus the Rams in the playoffs, and sure enough, they just copy paste. They run the same blueprint, same scheme. So I think you're definitely right about that. How much, to what degree will teams continue to run that zone? That remains to be seen. But good point there.
And the good news for Rob too on Monday against Memphis is going to see Scottie Pippen Jr. is going to be the that backup point guard that he'll go against, and that should be an opportunity for him to not really be taken advantage of defensively.
Love that. Yeah, no rest for the wicked. Memphis up Monday afternoon, Martin Luther King game, a 1:30 p.m. tip-off. That's on TNT. Tell us what makes this team so good. 27-15, third in the West. What do we got to watch out for? And most importantly, like I asked you last night, where are they susceptible? Where are they beatable? What's the blueprint come Monday afternoon?
Yeah, totally. John Morant's status is one to monitor. He did not play last night against the Spurs. I believe he has like a foot sprain or something like that. So whether or not he plays, obviously, is a huge thing. But yeah, Memphis really, really good crashing the offensive glass and creating second chance opportunities. So that front court, they had 31 rebounds tonight. They're going to need another performance like that, especially from Rudy Gobert. Rudy was awesome tonight. Had 17 points and 12 boards. And had 0 turnovers. So if he can be that effective again, whether it's Zach Edey, Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, whoever's inside for them, he's got to really rebound the ball well. And again, the guards have to crash, because Memphis sends a lot of guys on the offensive glass, and because of that, you got to be able to get out and run when you do get stops. Try to beat them back down the floor. And then Memphis is one of the best teams in the league when it comes to turning you over and then scoring on the other end of the floor. So the better you can take care of the ball. They did a great job taking care of the ball against Memphis, the last time, and they did a great job of containing John Morant, which is important as well. But again, the Wolves between Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Rob Dillingham just didn't get enough production from that guard trio in the first 3 quarters of this game. And Nickeil really struggled, but was 1 of 10 from the floor, 4 from 3.
Game.
So
yeah,
you're going to need better nights from those guys. And hopefully, Mike will be able to replicate that really strong start that he had against New York and again in this game tonight. So
yeah, great stuff, man. As always, Wolves run out of steam late in this one. Cavs go on that killer 16-0 run to end the third quarter, start the fourth quarter. Final tonight, 124-117. 22-20 they dropped to on the year, 2 games above 500. As always, huge shout out to all the everydayers, all you guys that always make us your first listen, all you guys coming in the chat with us, venting with us from game to game. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and go follow Jack on X at JRBorman13. He's live from the Target Center during almost every home game. Memphis up next. That's on Monday, 1:30 p.m. tip-off on TNT. We'll catch you right here, same time, same place. But until then, signing